Hello and welcome to the Dotkernel DotMaker tutorial. In this video we will showcase how DotMaker generates project files and directories that match the Dotkernel file structure inspired by Mezzio. Use this command from the GitHub page to install DotMaker. Follow the DotMaker README page to insert the composer JSON command for calling DotMaker. This is a quick overview of the features provided by DotMaker. Let's see how to use DotMaker to create a new module. DotMaker auto-detects the application type and your core submodule. What if we try to create an admin module that already exists? DotMaker returns that the module creation failed. Let's create a phonebook module instead. This one doesn't exist in our project yet. If the module is created successfully, DotMaker will ask you for other items. Some may be optional for your project. An entity and its corresponding repository, a service class and its corresponding service interface, a CLI command, a middleware, any handlers. Each action will have its own handler. Will this application expose an endpoint for listing all phone books? How about an endpoint for viewing a specific phone book, identified by an ID? An endpoint for creating phone books? An endpoint for deleting a specific phone book, identified by an ID? An endpoint for editing a specific phone book, identified by an ID? An endpoint for replacing a specific phone book, identified by an ID? Here you can see the newly created phonebook folders in the main codebase and the core submodule. With the files in place, you need to register the phonebook module by adding its config provider in config.php. Do the same for the phonebook config provider in the core submodule. In the CLI global PHP file, locate the .cli commands keys and register the phonebook command. In the pipeline PHP file, register the phonebook middleware somewhere before the dispatch middleware, depending on the logic of your module. Now you need to authorize the new routes. Go to the phonebook module's routes delegator file. These are the new routes. Add them to the authorization global PHP file under the user role enum guest value key, so that the new routes will be easily accessible without being authenticated. Later, you may want to restrict routes to only the role that uses them. Next, you need to register the new module inside the composer JSON file under the autoload PSR4 key. Do the same for the core module. These new additions will ensure that the new module can be auto-loaded. Now you need to call composer dump, so that composer rebuilds its autoloader. If you chose to create an entity, you need to execute the doctrine diff command to generate a new migration file that will create the phonebook entity. Although the entity is almost empty, you can still execute the newly generated migration, which has doctrine create a table for the new entity. At this step, everything should be working. You can review the new files and modify them according to your needs. Let's test our brand new module with PHP's internal server by executing composer serve. First, we should call the phonebook endpoint that should list all phonebooks in our application. Note that it's a 200 OK response with 0 items in the collections, since the table is empty. Let's try to create a phonebook. Again, refer to the routes delegator and find the post phonebook endpoint. Our phonebook entity has no field requirements, so we can submit an empty JSON object and get a 201 created response. Let's try to list the phonebook's endpoint again. We get a 200 OK response, but this time the total items is 1. This concludes the tutorial. Enjoy using Dotkernel with DotMaker.